Hi, welcome back. I'm Grayson Ottaway. 10 clones of Mortal Kombat, worth giving a try. They say imitation is the best form of flattery. The same goes for video games. A combat game with as much cultural significance as Mortal Kombat is rare. Its graphic violence and deadly gameplay have kept it alive for more than 29 years as a series, with more titles to come. Mortal Kombat fundamentally altered the perspective of fighting games when it debuted following the enormous success of Street Fighter II. The bizarre acts of violence at the time generated massive outrage, but they also brought in cash. In fact, there was so much money that soon every small-time video game producer on Earth was trying to cash in. This led to the creation of an entirely new subgenre of games known as Mortal Kombat clones. Here are 10 clones of the game worth mentioning. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to this channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Killer Instinct 2. As a follow-up to Killer Instinct 2 was created by Rare and produced by Midway for arcades in 1996. In the same year, Killer Instinct Gold, a customized iteration of Killer Instinct 2, was released on the Nintendo 64. Killer Instinct 2 takes place right after the incidents of the first installment. Black Orchid accidentally triggers a time warp when she kills Idol, sending some participants back in time and helping the Demon Lord Gargos break free from limbo. The warriors that made it through Killer Instinct are now locked in the past, fighting alongside a few newcomers for the chance to engage Gargos in battle. The backstories of each character that made it through the voyage in the original game connect to their appearances in this sequel, which features additional characters who are natives of the historical era. Some fighters, such as TJ Combo, who is making his comeback, just want to get home. Others, such as Tusk's brand new character, seek to stop Gargos and his terrible rule. There are 11 characters in all on the game's roster. There are 2 to 4 alternative outcomes for each character in the game. Whether or not the player uses a finishing move to kill throughout the course of the game, as opposed to just diminishing the health of their opponent, determines which ending they receive. Similar to Mortal Kombat, 2 characters face battle with the intention of lowering the other person's life bar. Like Mortal Kombat, its matches rely on an automated combo subsystem. While some critics complimented the upgrades, combo system, aesthetics, and the music, others criticized the sluggish pace, variable frame rate, and lack of development from the previous game. Killer Instinct 2 was a financial success, despite not receiving as many favorable reviews as its predecessor.
Battle 2.
Biofreaks. Midway published Biofreaks in 1998. It was intended initially for arcades. Even though the game's arcade version was cancelled, it was nevertheless made available on the PlayStation, Windows, and Nintendo 64. After the fall of the United States, the techno-industrial civil wars divided 50 states into private domains. An industrial battle of corporate espionage was driven as technology and bioengineering advanced at an amazing rate. The administration barely managed to cling to power, but the impact of the large businesses' white-collar battles caused the economy to collapse. Due to the collapse of the government and the takeover by technical firms, Neo America grew. Biological, flying robot, enhanced armored killing synthoids, also known as Biofreaks, are developed as the torchbearers for each member organization by the Secret Games Commission, which is set up to maintain order by holding competitions to determine which organization will rule over all of Neo America. Like MK, Biofreaks has a wide selection of cruel, charismatic combatants and features fierce, highly bloody, fast-paced fights. With a combat engine that supports full 3D fighting, up-down, hoverbouts, and dynamic settings, Biofreaks makes an additional effort to surpass the MK series. The fighting combo system in Biofreaks, as in Mortal Kombat before it, is less intricate and more focused on speed and gore. Instead, the majority of the game's battles take place at a distance and involve projectiles. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't many other techniques that may be used, as each fighter is capable of performing over 20 different strikes, some of which are more potent and graphic than others. With outstanding character designs and animation, Biofreaks is very likely one of the best-looking fighting games. The game offers a well-balanced selection of techniques and choices for players seeking a real fighting engine. It is hard to go wrong with Biofreaks, whether you like the Mortal Kombat video games or if you're looking for mindless, violent pleasure. It could be worth a shot for serious fighting game fans as well. Primal Rage. The setting of the game is Earth after a global catastrophe. The world was attacked by meteors, which devastated every continent. Cities were destroyed by raging seas, and volcanic eruptions wiped off whole civilizations. All that was left of the old world to be inhabited were the empty shells of what was formerly known as humanity, which had been virtually sent back to the Stone Age. Massive monsters known as draconians, previously believed to have been imprisoned following the demise of the dinosaurs, emerged during this catastrophe. Many of these animals were enormous dinosaurs, but some had ape-like features, while one was serpentine in form and had come back to Earth from the moon. In the long-ago fight known as the Mesozoic Wars, these animals fought for complete dominance, and now was the time for the struggle to reign supreme once more. Knowing they had little hope of resisting these formidable animals, the majority of Earth's populace rallied to support certain draconians and started to revere them as deities. The planet's continents had been shifted, and now every draconian would join the battle to conquer it. Players had two options for gameplay. They could play against friends and take over Earth by beating the game's many levels, or they could play as their favorite god and progress through arcade mode by methodically destroying enemies and capturing land. Despite players having to press and release buttons to perform their character's special attacks, the controls function pretty similarly to Mortal Kombat. Due to the game's worldwide arcade distribution and high level of popularity, it was later released on many home consoles. But because of the game's graphic content and brutal finishing maneuvers, almost every console port restricted it in some form. In the middle of the 1990s, Primal Rage, a distinctive combat game, attracted a lot of attention and criticism. Evidence of its tenacity may be found in its place in arcades and the numerous ports it inspired. When its anticipated sequel was scrapped, the franchise was devastated. It is a must-try for gamers who are fans of brutal fighting games. Mace, the Dark Age. Atari Games developed Mace, the Dark Age, a fighting video game for arcade machines back in 1997. Midway subsequently adapted it to the Nintendo 64. In Mace, 10 major characters engage in combat to reclaim the Mace of Tanis, a mystical item that has the power to bring order and peace to countries overrun by sickness, murder, and mayhem. Asmodeus, a wicked sorcerer who lives off the chaos and the suffering of the world, and who also happens to be the owner of the mace, is responsible for this corruption. As anticipated, the world's top warriors from the medieval era are recruited and sent on a mission to find the enigmatic mace. With a wide selection of combatants to pick from, the game's aesthetics and the character design are equally outstanding and nicely done. Characters and backgrounds are anti-aliased, and the images are impressively sharp. Furthermore, the backgrounds include animation, such as moving clouds, blazing flames, and flowing streams. Each character has a variety of attacks, combinations, and fatalities at their disposal. Projectiles and spells are used in addition to close combat in the fighting system, which is similar to Mortal Kombat. Although Mace, the Dark Ages arcade version, was a commercial success, its console counterpart only received mediocre reviews from critics. Nobody will likely be knocked out of their seats by Mace. Despite a few minor flaws, the visuals though are crisp and attractive. Although the gameplay is predictable and formulaic, it is still pretty good. More effort may have been spent refining frame rates and adjusting control. Eternal Champions. Sega created and released Eternal Champions in 1993 for the Sega Genesis. It was one of the few games of the era created entirely for home consoles, instead of initially being published in arcades, then transferred to home systems. The Eternal Champion, an omniscient creature that appears early in the game, prophesizes that humanity will soon vanish because of the untimely and unfair deaths of important figures who were destined for greatness throughout history. The Eternal Champion collects these souls from time just before their deaths in an effort to bring harmony back to Earth. The Eternal Champion decides to stage a combat competition amongst them, since he only has the strength to save one of them. The winner will be able to modify their destiny and restore balance to the universe, while the losers will be doomed to die as recorded in history. Unlike most others, this game has no evil or bad characters. Each character was picked because they either had intrinsic goodness or the capacity to act heroically and alter the course of history. The game has a configuration similar to the 8-way directional pad stick and 6 buttons used in the majority of fighting games at the time. Every character has a specific attack that is all their own and is executed differently from every other character's. A character becomes dizzy after taking multiple hits in succession, which allows the opponent to attack freely. All special move orders in Eternal Champions are executed by either hitting multiple buttons simultaneously or holding back to charge, then pushing towards or up along a button. The game's overkills is only a gameplay aspect for the player's entertainment, much like in Mortal Kombat, where they have no bearing on the plot. Eternal Champions received a mixed response when it was first released. Eternal Champions could stand out from the other fighting games available in the early 1990s because of its distinctive plot and a ridiculously jumbled cast of characters. Even though it is a fun game, it would take a lot of practice for a player to master all the characters' different moves. Way of the Warrior. Naughty Dog created Way of the Warrior, which Universal Interactive Studios released in 1994 for the 3DO. To be inscribed in the Book of Warriors, a player had to battle 9 distinct world warriors, the shadow of the player's own character, a dragon named High Abbot, and a skeleton named Kull in the mountains of Himalaya. Each character possessed a primary collection of violent killing techniques, including offensive and defensive combat methods, combo strikes, and special moves. The game also had a number of secret passwords that unlocked hidden characters. Players must engage in a life or death battle with one of the world warriors, much as in Mortal Kombat. The game has characters with intricate backstories and high-resolution visuals. Players must battle many combatants as well as the shadow of their own character. The game managed to receive average reviews for its gameplay and plot, but was lauded for its graphics and music. It isn't a game for serious gamers, but for people who want fun bashing up players during leisure, it's perfect. Weapon Lord. Weapon Lord was created by Visual Concepts and released in October 1995 for the Super NES and Genesis by Namco. The game begins with a dead mercenary on the battlefield, with a demon spirit possessing his body. He is reincarnated and engages in brutal conflict with 20 kings. He then establishes the Demon Lord Wraith era. The shaman, who predicted the end of the Demon King at the height of his strength, said that when the night would grow violent and the moon would start bleeding, a child would rise to challenge the demon in battle, and the Lord of the Demons would fall at the hand of the child who would be helmed, the Weapon Lord. The Demon Lord waits to engage his promised murderer in a fair one-on-one battle against the council of his lieutenants, who advised him to kill the children born that night. Later on, the demon Zarak succeeds Wraith as the new Demon Lord. Zarak conducts a grand tournament of champion warriors 25 years after the prophecy was uttered. The victor will engage the demon in a decisive conflict. The Demon Lord gets ready to confront his fate and eliminate the Weapon Lord. The combatants of the Weapon Lord each have between 9 and 12 unique techniques. Expansive motions on the directional pad, accompanied by an attack button, can be used to execute moves. Charge moves require the player to hold down an attack button, move in one direction for 2 seconds, then release the attack button. Hold down actions require the player to first hold down an attack button, move in that direction for another 2 seconds, and then release that button. A password is provided at the conclusion of a game so that the player may always pick up where they left off, if necessary. In order to play the Demon Lord Zarak in story mode, a secret password is also provided. The characters have distinct ending scenes based on the opponents during the story mode, who were saved or slain with a death combo. Learning a few tricks and playing with your pals is highly satisfying and entertaining in its own right. Any fighting game lover who has never tried it really should, because it is one of the more straightforward, rare games to obtain, since it is on consoles. Perhaps you'll discover a fun, relaxing game to play in between Mortal Kombat fights. The Black Heart. Andre Borghi created the video game The Black Heart using the Mugen engine. It's a fighting game with a horrible theme that has its own entrance, characters, levels, credits, and the plot that you may play in story mode. The game's fatal moves, similar to Mortal Kombat's fatalities and that the victim of the assault is excessively fatally wounded, are dark and brutal in many ways. The game has 6 chapters. The player is presented with the perspective of their chosen character, the reasons for their pursuit of the Black Heart, and the ones who took it in each chapter, which is substantially the same for all of the characters. In the style of an arcade ladder, the player battles foes, each of whom has superior artificial intelligence, AI, than the one before them. The last conflict always takes place in Chaos, the stage where the appropriately titled Final resides. The player is then shown the conclusion of their character's journey, once he has been vanquished, and the credits will start to roll. Blackheart's gameplay is considerably different from other Mugen games. For instance, the adversary will begin to bleed when their health drops below a specific level. The first player or team to either KO their opponents or have more life than their opponent will win that round. The best 2 out of 3 win. By default, each game will continue for 99 seconds every round. It's a fantastic game considering it was created by just one person who even came up with the soundtrack for the game. Compared to the other games on the list, it is quite new and tries to encapsulate the style of Mortal Kombat, but has its own appeal regardless. It is a must-try for gamers who might wonder what the 21st century has to offer in the name of fighting games. Cardinal Sin. In 1998, Cardinal Sin was released by Sony after being created by Kronos Digital Entertainment, the same company that produced Criticom and Dark Rift. A mystery entity gathered all the clans together and read from his book of knowledge, which talked about the harmony they could attain by coming together in peace to end the warfare that had gripped the clans of the Bloodlands. Under the leadership of the stranger they had dubbed the Wanderer, the clans laid down their weapons and lived in peace for many years. The stranger then divided the book into scrolls and presented one to each tribe before vanishing before their very eyes, as the countryside began to pale and appear to be dying. The clans were at each other's throats in no time, fighting for possession of the whole book's collection of scrolls, and bloody conflict once more reclaimed the Bloodlands. A particularly vicious struggle was in progress when a strange conjurer known as Sign came, wielding the Wanderer's insignia that he had used as a sign of clan harmony. The clan chiefs were forced to give back their scrolls, which she then transformed into 3 engraved swords that contained the book's information. She then announced a competition. The best fighter from each clan would be sent to participate in life or death combat. The victor of the competition would be crowned the leader of their clan, given control over the whole Bloodlands, and granted access to the sword's formulas. Cardinal Sin's free-roaming abilities let the player wander around a compact, interactive stage during the battle. The fighters are fashioned after beings from a dark fantasy world. Many are not human, and all are armed with appropriate fighting weapons. The title character provides access to combos, dodges, stage hazards, finishing techniques, and battlefield power-ups. Both critics and players have conflicting opinions about the game. It is clear that Kronos spent a lot of time creating this game because the developer includes all the bells and whistles in terms of appearance. The game is graphically beautiful and fairly captivating for its time. Ultra Vortec. Beyond Games created Ultra Vortec, which Atari Corporation released just for the Atari Jaguar. In Ultra Vortec, 7 warriors from 3 teams compete in a tournament conducted by a demonic entity known as the Guardian, in a dystopian future when society has been decimated to a Mad Max-inspired environment. The Guardian guards the titular tablet, which when defeated will give the winner unlimited power and prevent Earth from being obliterated by the artifact. Similar to Mortal Kombat, the player engages in one-on-one combat with other players, and the winner of the opening round is the fighter who successfully lowers the opponent's health bar. The winner of the match is the first person to win 2 rounds. Each round has a timer that may be changed or turned off in the game options. If both combatants are still alive after the round's timer ends, the fighter with the most health wins. There are 4 difficulty levels in the game. Players can select one of 7 playable characters and take on computer-controlled opponents in the single-player game. The player can defeat a concealed character by meeting specific requirements. The player can battle the Guardian if every adversary is vanquished on the normal difficulty or above. Similar to Mortal Kombat, special moves are carried out by pushing the D-pad while typing button instructions. A significant element is the option to use a poopality, a finishing move that players use against a beaten opponent to transform them into excrement. 2 different multiplayer options exist in a network mode and a local 2-player versus mode. In order to play online, players must dial each other using the Jaguar voice modem while the network mode is active. It is by far one of the best games for Atari Jaguar. The game was praised for its gameplay and graphics upon its release, even though it received mixed reviews for its story from gamers and critics alike. Gamers must try this marvelous game for themselves to ascertain whether they like it. This brings us to the end of another video. If you enjoyed the video, please like our video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos about various amazing games.